Green Sea Turtle Sculpture by HotPinkZebraPaper. And the base for this is a wooden circle that has 2 holes in it with copper wire coming through the holes, and then it is glued and adhered on the bottom of it, which is what, as I said, what I used as the base, and then I just bent the wire up and around so that they would support the 2 sea turtles that I made out of polymer clay and some aluminum foil and masking tape, and then I painted them. So, as I mentioned, the first thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be creating like a structure for my turtles out of aluminum foil. And so I'm just going to take that, and I made head, fins, or flippers, I guess, and a tail, and then the shell or the body part. And then I am going to be attaching all that together with masking tape, covering up all of the aluminum foil so that none of it sticks through, just like you're making a little sea turtle mummy. And this is not the upper shell, this is just like his tummy and his body, so it's not really very thick at the moment, but you're trying to keep this actually quite thin. So now I'm going to be rolling out sheets of polymer clay, and I was using a clay roller or a pasta machine, and it was on one of the larger or the wider settings, so I think it was on a 1. And so then you're going to cover up your turtle in entirety and smooth it out with your fingertips and try to get it as smooth as possible. And I'm using just white clay for the entire thing. If you wanted, you could use colored clay, and then you would create all of the different colors and patterns on your turtle from this stage. I think that would frankly be a little more difficult, but if you're not comfortable painting, you can definitely do it that way. You might not be able to get quite as much detail in there either. It depends. Some things are easier for one person than they are for the other, so do whatever you feel comfortable with. But I'm just going to be covering it with white and smoothing it in as much as possible. And lastly, I'm going to be covering up the tummy, smoothing that all, and then I'm going to be baking it according to the package instructions. So for me, I did it 23 minutes at 225 degrees, I believe. And so now I'm going to be adding some more details to the face. I didn't really do any details on the rest of the body, but on the face I'm going to be defining my turtle's beak, and then thickening up the head just a little bit so it's got the right proportions, smoothing everything out. If you need to, you can also carve some of the clay away with a knife. So just keep building it up and taking it away until it's exactly how you want it. Then adding 2 spheres for the eyes, and then adding little flat pieces around that to create the eyelids. And after you have all that blended out, then you are done with your turtle and you can bake it. Yeah, don't bake it before, but bake it now. And for this, I personally like to do all of my smoothing and blending with my fingertip or my fingernail. And there's lots of tools you can use if you have preferences, but do it however you like. So now I'm going to be creating an aluminum foil top shell, covering that with more of that lovely masking tape, rolling out pieces of clay, and covering up my shell. And so after you do this, you're going to want to fit it to your turtle's body. So first, cover the shell and then add another thicker layer to the top of it. This is just going to give you more room to kind of mess with it and make sure that it fits to your turtle's body, and add just slight subtle shaping so that it's got like a little bit of an edge around it. But then, as I mentioned, we're just going to be fitting it to my turtle's body, so make sure that you fit it on there and make sure that there's no huge gaps or anything. You want it to be nice and smooth. Once you have, and then you can bake it. So now I'm going to be painting my turtle's body. So I'm going to start by just basing them out in a cream color. And then after I have that on, I'm going to be adding a second coat. And while that is still wet, I'm going to be blending in some green and some brown, just to give it, you don't want it to have a smooth color or a solid color. You want it to kind of go from one color to the next and vary a little bit so it has a more natural appearance. And then paint his eyes with brown with a black pupil. And then on our face, we're going to be adding a whole series of spots. And then on the beak, you're going to want to shade around it with some of that brown, with it being lighter in the center. And just keep adding some of those spots. They're going to be the thickest on the back of the neck, and then they're going to get thinner towards the body and thinner down the sides. And we're also going to be adding spots along our sea turtle's arms. And when you're doing this, if you don't want to match it exactly to mine, you can look at a photo of a green sea turtle and find one that you like its patterning on, and then replicate it from that. And I'm also going to be adding the spots on the back flippers. And then on the underside. So we're going to do more spots on the upper side and then less on the lower, and then add a whole bunch of little mottle dots just around that softer tissue. So on all of the joints and the basically around where the shell is attached, they've got a harder section of skin almost on their tummy, which is what I'm doing now. So first I'm just going to darken that with a little bit of green and then paint those panels that are the lighter cream color on top of there. But all around all of that area is this really soft flesh that they use that moves around when they're swimming. So make sure that that has almost a polka dot or a mottled appearance, like I said. And then a couple white spots on the fins and then on the chin, and then just do a whole bunch of stripes in that area that's softer, and highlights and lowlights wherever you see fit. So highlight with white, lowlight with brown, blend it all in. So now for the shell, I'm going to be painting it for the base color with just brown, and you don't have to paint in the center. You can if you'd like, but it's not really necessary. If you do, I would go in with black. And then with a small brush and cream color, I'm going to be sculpting, or not sculpting, I'm going to be sketching out where each of the scales are, or the panels are on the shell. And then I'm going to be highlighting them and lowlighting them. So with a little brush, I'm just going to be blending some black along the top edge of each of those scales. And after you do that, I'm going to be blending in a cream color along the bottom, but I'm also doing this around the top ones and also the ones that go around and border the shell on the sides. And I'm using a one-stroke brush, and if you're not really good with one-stroke techniques, you can always use just a different kind of brush and blend it in while that brown paint was still wet. So I'm going to use cream and go around the bottom. And also around the ones that are on the outside. And then, as I mentioned, I am going to be filling in the center of my shell with black. Use a really thick, heavy-duty glue to glue your shell to your turtle, and then glaze it with a satiny glaze. And so I'm glazing over my entire turtle with a satin glaze, and then glossy right over his eyes. So now I'm using that same really thick, really strong, it's a construction grade glue, and I'm going to be gluing shells all over the base of my base, the base of the base. So I'm just using different pieces, and I've got some sand dollars and some little sea rocks and all kinds of things that I'm gluing in. And first you want to fit them to see how they're going to fit in place, and then add glue where it's going to be touching, and then glue it in, and then cut off the excess wire for your turtles, put a little glue on them, and glue them onto the stand. And that's it. Let that dry for however long the glue says. Mine's about 5 hours, and then you are good to go. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please share any recreations or comment with any questions, and I'll be sure to get back to them as soon as possible, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!